Welcome to the Charity Changemakers podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and action for the changemakers of the world. Each week, we dive deep into the world of impactful charities. We connect you with the passionate leaders, the innovative ideas, and the real-world stories that are making a difference. Whether you're a seasoned non-profit professional or just starting out, this podcast is your chance to learn from the best and get fired up to make a positive change. We'll explore the challenges and triumphs of running a successful charity. We'll hear about the fundraising strategies, impactful programs, and the stories of the people whose lives are being transformed. But most importantly, we'll leave you feeling empowered and equipped to take action in your community and the organizations in which you work. So, buckle up, Changemakers, because we're about to embark on a journey of inspiration and impact.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of the Charity Changemakers podcast here in Series 1. I can hardly believe that we've reached the end of this incredible series. It seems to have flown by in just a moment, but actually we've had 14 incredible guests come on the show over the last 14 weeks and share some absolutely inspiring and brilliant insights and stories of their career and their roots into the charity sector that have just been so incredibly helpful and insightful to a whole bunch and range of individuals. The very fact that when we launched this podcast, I was just thinking, well, look, if we can get 20 people to listen, then I'll be amazed. The fact that we're talking about thousands of people that have listened to our content, who have seen these stories, have shared in the podcast from a variety of platforms, from across Spotify and Apple and across LinkedIn. To be honest, it's just my mind's been blown by how engaged people have been. You're just getting me today on the podcast on a very much a short version as we reflect a little bit on the series and we think about where we've got to and what's coming next for the show. But first and foremost, I just really, really want to thank the 14 guests that have come onto the podcast over these last few weeks. People that have come from a variety of different roles, whether that be a director level role or a chief executive, and come from a whole range of organizations, from those smaller organizations working maybe in a local or regional context, right through to those that have been working in larger international settings. What you have shared with us has just been so insightful and wonderful and really, really helpful. Nothing gives me more joy than when a candidate refers to, I was so inspired by that story that individual shared. Or I spoke to candidates in the last few weeks who are thinking about making that shift into the charity sector, bringing incredible transferable skills to our brilliant sector, wonderful sector, being inspired by individuals that have been on the show that have made that very, very move. The whole reason we launched this podcast was to do that, to inspire individuals to want to work and to serve within the sector, to hear more about how wonderful and brilliant and creative and inspiring and innovative the charity sector is and can be, and a wonderful place to build a really rewarding career for individuals. So a huge thank you to the 14 guests that have come on, who've given up time in their diaries, busy diaries, to come and to share and to speak with me. It's been a real joy and a real privilege for me personally to be able to facilitate these conversations and to bring them forward. And I think there's been some key themes that we've picked up along the way. We've heard about all organizations that are struggling from a fundraising and funding and income generation point of view, from budgets and income that's being squeezed in a whole range of different ways across a whole range of different income streams. What's been great to see is how organizations are tackling those funding challenges. It's very easy, isn't it, in those circumstances to feel beaten up and disheartened, but actually there's an energy and an enthusiasm to drive after growing income, diversifying income, trying new things, being creative, being innovative. And that's the things that I think the charity sector can really thrive in. And we've seen organizations that have been backed to do that. Sometimes I think, we can say actually the sector can be a bit slow, but actually we've seen organizations particularly where the senior leadership team and the board are united and got a clear sense of what's coming next, have been able to adapt and change and move quickly And it's been really inspiring to share and to hear those stories. Go back through the series, listen to some of those incredible stories that have been shared with us. But you know what the most inspiring thing is that I've been so greatly encouraged and so I found so heartwarming. And I think every single person that's come on the podcast has talked about this as about an individual or individuals in their career who have made an absolutely huge difference, who have influenced them, who have coached them, mentored them. People referring to individuals back in their career who in that moment have seen something in them and taken time to invest in them to help them grow. We've seen people go from entry-level roles to chief executives in the charity sector. We've seen people make that transition because they've had people who've believed in them. You know, one of our guests, I think it was Claire from the Crohn's and Colitis UK, talks about the fact that, you know, there was even a point in her career where she was doing things where maybe she didn't think that she could do it, but because her coach, her mentor, her boss absolutely believed in her, she got on and she did it and has, you know, risen through her career. But that wasn't a unique story to Claire. We saw it across so many of the guests, if not all of the guests that came on, individuals that made a difference. And what I find really heartwarming in that is that all of them spoke about now doing that with others in the sector, about supporting, engaging, developing, investing in teams, building that culture, making the sector and the organizations that they work in the very best places that they can be, and encouraging people along in their careers to help them to grow, to develop. Because your brand new fundraiser may well be leading the organization later down the line. You'll see people that are making those transitions from commercial sectors, bringing incredible transferable skills and making a difference. I think the sector as a whole, the charity sector and the not-for-profit sector, has an absolute strength in doing that, about developing, investing and supporting its workforce, and a real unique approach to that just helps set it and stand it aside from other sectors that people could be working in. And I hope that people have found that really inspiring and can see that real difference. You know, the reason that we wanted to do this podcast was to help inspire people to come and to work and to serve within the charity sector, to hear about how people have developed their careers within the sector, how they made that move into the sector, and how, the joys, the challenges, the opportunities that have come with that. And I'm really excited that we've been able to reflect and to hear people saying how much they valued those conversations. Now, I have to admit, when we started the podcast, it was a pretty nerve-wracking thing to do, and I wasn't sure whether we were doing the right thing or whether I had the right skills or abilities to be able to do it. And don't get me wrong, I don't think I'm necessarily there right yet, but I think we've made some good strides over this first series. And the feedback's been so positive so far that we're definitely up for doing a second series. So I'm going to pop a form in the link to a form in the show notes below, just asking for some feedback. I'd be really grateful to receive that from you. To hear some feedback on the series, the things that you've enjoyed, the things you think we can improve, the things that we can tweak. You can either absolutely feel free to put your name on that feedback, or you can absolutely do it anonymously as well if you would prefer. But we are really, really keen to hear that and to learn from it as we move forward to putting forward a second series. And if you've got suggestions of people that we should be inviting to come on the show, or introductions that you can make, or perhaps you'd be quite keen to come on the show yourself, then please do fill out that form or drop me a direct message on LinkedIn. I'll be really keen to hear from you. And before we wrap up, I've got some exciting news to share. One of those things that we've heard from individuals through this podcast series is some of the challenges that individuals and organizations are facing when it comes to recruitment. Now, of course, that's an area that we are particularly passionate about, working within the recruitment sector. And we've gone away and we've thought about some of the conversations that we've had, some of the reflections that we've had as we've spoken with people about some of the challenges that they're facing. And hot off the press, we've created this free recruitment checklist for individuals, for charities, for organizations, for the not-for-profit sector. It's got a whole bunch of step-by-step guide as to best ways to take roles to market, how to attract forward top talent, how to draw people forward, how to engage them well, and to make your interview processes a solid experience for individuals. So from defining your recruitment goals right through to getting to making an offer, we've got a checklist there for you to go through with some top tips thrown in from the things that we've learned from having worked in this market for over 20 years. I'll again pop a link in the notes of the show notes below so that you can follow that through if that would be a helpful guide for you and for your organization. We've also got some webinars coming up over the end of this year, so across October, November and December. So please do keep a lookout for those as well. Some more content around areas that we think some of the areas that maybe the charity sector is struggling with when it comes to attracting forward individuals. So we're going to deep dive into some of those issues that have come up on the podcast, give you as the audience opportunities to come and to ask questions, to put some of your thoughts forward and to share in that together. So keep an eye out particularly on our LinkedIn to see more details of that coming soon. Finally, and most importantly, I want to say a huge thank you to you, the audience. I genuinely, as I said at the start of the pod, had no idea how this was going to go. But the very fact that I'm talking about thousands, tens of thousands of engagements with the podcast on LinkedIn, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts is just incredible. Your support has been absolutely mind-blowing. And because of that, we're really keen to keep these conversations going. And we will be back later in the year with a second series. So please do continue to share, to subscribe and to like the podcast so that we can reach even more people as we move forward. But for series 1, I think that's it. It's a wrap. But we'll be back for series 2 of the Charity Changemakers podcast later this year, where we'll be bringing you even more inspiring guests and conversations. So until that point, take care. And I look forward to engaging and seeing you later in the year.
And that's a wrap for this week on the Charity Changemakers podcast. Remember, you can be the change you want to see in the world. We hope that this episode has inspired you to get out there and make a difference. This podcast was brought to you by Charisma Charity Recruitment, one of the UK's leading recruitment consultancies for the charity sector. Whether you're a passionate professional seeking your next challenge or a charity searching for a top-tier talent, Charisma Charity Recruitment can help. Visit their website at charismarecruitment.co.uk to explore their latest positions and to connect your organisation with the change makers shaping the future of the non-profit world. Thanks for joining us.